I'm convinced that we will destroy, unfortunately, a lot of employment. Just think of self-guided cars and all the drivers losing their jobs. Let's look at the bank employees and so on.
If you're left behind, you're facing something far worse, which is to be completely irrelevant. They won't even need you as a serf or as a slave.
Need a tough taskmaster.
Here's why that thinking isn't going to work. You think about good times, bad times, recession times, slowdown in the economy. Companies are still pursuing the very best talent, that they can get. And so at the end of the day, you have to ask that talent through your HR departments, what does it take to win you over? Good times, bad times. Let me walk you down the list right now of what's going on here and why I don't think it's going to change. Because I've got lots of HR people, lots of different companies, investments in all 11 sectors. And I just want to pause for 1 second before I shred Jay in this debate and say thank you for your service. I worked under you in terms of being an issue of securities. You were the most pragmatic regulator we've ever had. Thank you very much. Now, having said that, back to work. I look at this and say, let's get down the list, all right? Number one, I didn't make this stuff up. These are the top 9 issues that we're facing trying to get people in. Number one, I don't want to increase the world's carbon footprint by commuting to work every day. Number two, I do not want to live and work in a high-rise where the air is poisoned. That's new. We never used to hear that a couple of years ago, but that's probably COVID-based, and it's true. Most of these high-rise buildings have really crappy HVAC in them because they're really old. They've already proven, this is number 3 in the hit parade, that they can work remotely and productively and have been doing it for 2.5, 3 years. Number 4, they're raising families, and they want to do it in affordable communities, hundreds of miles away from HQ, and they don't want to change because they're getting great schools. And many, many, many members are working in other countries of these teams now. You can hire people in India, you can hire them in Dubai, you can hire them in Europe, and still get productivity out of them. And then there's this whole thing about cities like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, LA. They're war zones. People don't want to go there and get their watch stolen or assaulted or whatever else. That just happened recently. You can't blame them. It's true. People are stealing watches in Los Angeles, where I'm going this afternoon. I can't wear one anymore there. And, frankly, they're not interested in paying the cost of commuting. And they even say lunch costs them an extra $150 to $200 when they have to buy it downtown. They'd rather make it at home. What do you say to all of that? Because if you want to hire that person, you've got to give them answers to every one of them, starting right at the top with that carbon footprint thing. Brand new one, hard to dispute.
Yeah, and Kevin, those things are things you cannot ignore, but you can't also ignore the fact that teamwork and being part of the team makes everyone better. And we've all seen that. I am lucky enough to look out over a trading floor where people have been in. You can see the buzz. You can see them working together. Now, are we going to go back to, 5 days a week, 40, 50, 60, 70 hours in the office? I don't think so. But are we going to isolate from each other going forward? Definitely not. And I say this to people who are out there, young professionals. If you can do your job remotely without interacting with other people, somebody can do it from somewhere else in the world where you don't have all the benefits that you have being here in America. And you got to think about that. I mean, right now, America is in the best possible position relative to the rest of the world. We responded the best to the pandemic. We have, a lot of strengths that other places don't have, including energy and the like. If we go into a choppy time period, the leverage that employees have today, it kind of goes away. We're talking about very highly paid, highly skilled employees who are essential, but when things pull back, they're high cost. And I would caution particularly the young people who want to be professionals for the rest of their lives to get mentorship. We have an apprenticeship economy. You learn by watching people who do your job, and you learn very well. You better access that kind of opportunity. I know myself that I would not be nearly as successful, have had as many opportunities, had I not had the opportunity to watch women and men who came before me.
Kevin, welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think. And we have Kevin O'Leary selling the metaverse. And yes, we know we're years away from it, but it is putting it into the minds. We know how media works. We also know it takes 365 days to create a habit. The behavior of the masses, the behavior of the sheep have changed. They're used to being at home. They're used to working from home and calling out sick from home. Now, Kevin O'Leary talked about the commute, the crime, spending money on lunch, the pollution. But guys, we know when it comes to the media, what do? The Hegelian dialectic. And Jay Clayton, Kevin O'Leary actually thanked Jay Clayton. And we know he did nothing as the SEC chair. But guys, when you're actually looking at this carbon footprint, that is the NWO's agenda. They want to control your movement, people. And Jay Clayton let out facts. And we know when it comes to the Hegelian dialectic, you're going to have some truth, you're going to have lies, and then it's your job to find the complete truth. Now, Jay Clayton let out the truth when it comes to our economy. It's about being hands-on. We know majority of jobs, you need someone to teach you. An apprentice-type workforce. That's what we have. And if you want to be great at what you do, that means you must learn from someone else also that's great. Don't get me wrong, majority of employees don't want to get there. But those who want to do their job at its best, they need to be around people that's going to actually motivate them. But guys, what is the NWO solution to that? That's right, the metaverse. You'll be able to commute and be around folks inside the metaverse. That's where it's going. But remember, the NWO has to take you in phases. And when it comes to employment, now you're going to have to compete globally. Now, what does that do? That take unions completely out the picture now. They no longer can provide job security because technology is going to make this job available globally. Now, we had Bed Bath & Beyond CFO, death labeled as a suicide. And I looked everywhere on the internet, guys, and I can't find anything live. Live on the scene, someone reporting, and all the cameras that we have. Now, he sold about 55,000 shares a few weeks before his death, and a class action lawsuit was filed. Now, he sells about $1.3 million in shares and then jumps to his death. Guys, it sounds like to me he received a call from the men in suits, because we know when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Or just really? So commuting, you think everybody's going to be worried about that they have to, so no one's going to ever leave, we're going to the metaverse. No one's ever going to have a carbon footprint. They're not going to leave their house anymore. Are you for real? You stop flying, eating any burgers anymore? People aren't going to go back to work because they're worried about the carbon footprint. What was the other thing you said? Crappy heating and air conditioning in the high rises? Where'd you come up with those two things? You didn't have those last time. Who gave you those two things?
Let me tell you what
Jay,
I
did you hear that? When he was saying that, what did you think of that, Jay? Were you going, who is this guy? Go ahead, Kevin. Who are you?
I basically called up the HR people, said, what's holding us back from hiring 24-year-olds? Remember, if you are 60 or you're 50 or you're 40, you've experienced that working together, the collaboration you guys are all pining about. Those years are over. It's over. There's technology now that lets you work together with people and collaborate. We've been doing it for 2.5 years. But if you're 24 and you're the hot hand over the keyboard and you're coming out of MIT and you're an engineer, there is no way in hell you're working in a cubicle in a high-rise with crappy poisonous air getting on the subway.
Kevin,
you don't have to do that anymore because you're the hot hand.
Is this mostly technology and just trying to find those really talented programmers?
No, Becky, no, it's across the board. We have an insecticide company in the middle of the country. We're trying to get people to come back and work in HQ and market the insecticide. We have commercial kitchens. We have wireless charging technology companies. I'm involved in the watch industry. We can't even get the watchmakers back to their benches anymore. They want to work at home.
Let me state, but that wasn't the case. The August decline, together with news that more companies are ringing the bell and calling their workers back to the office, suggests there may be further to go. At the same time, They can ring that bell all they want. A larger number of workers are going to be calling and already are calling out sick. 1.5 million Americans called out sick due to illness in August. Okay, that doesn't sound like much, but look at the comparison. It's 500,000 more than called out sick on average from 2009 to 2019 in January and February. That is during the height of normal flu season. And it's almost double the 10-year average for a typical August, 1.5 million versus 870,000. So while there may not be lockdowns these days, at least for now, we're kind of living with a permanent flu in the economy. Obviously, it went up in January also, but it's much higher in this August compared to others. And that's not to mention the estimate from a recent Brookings paper that from 2 to 4 million people may be out of the workforce due to long COVID. All of this challenges the ability to get the economy back up to potential growth. It could actually reduce potential growth. It also challenges productivity, Joe, and could help drive inflation.
Died Friday by suicide. This is just days after he briefed investors on the company's restructuring efforts. And CNBC's Courtney Reagan has more on this shocking story this morning. Courtney.
Hi, Andrew. The tragic news of the death of Bed Bath & Beyond Chief Financial Officer Gustavo Unal on September 2nd does add to the company's trading. In August, investors filed a class action lawsuit accusing Cohen and Arnall of artificially inflating Bed Bath's stock price. Stock sales in question for Arnall were both pre-planned and part of an agreement that he signed in April. In a filing last month, Bed Bath & Beyond said it was, quote, evaluating the complaint, but believes the claims are without merit and would not comment on litigation when asked by CNBC.
We're not seeing any movement out of this range.
It's because of the institutions that came into the space. You know, everybody wanted the institutions to come into the space. They were desperate for it for years. But once they actually came in during 2021, they changed the whole nature of crypto and turned it into a kind of a risk-on asset as a whole. So, you know, Bitcoin and all the other cryptos basically have moved in line with the US markets, particularly NASDAQ. Even just that, they're talking as if Ethereum's already been going crazy. And, you know, when you look at where it bottomed, yeah, okay, it has come up a lot since June. But the fact is, it fell a lot harder than Bitcoin in the first place. Over the past 6 months, between, say, December and June, it was falling a lot harder than Bitcoin. So all it's done in the last couple of months, actually, is just regain, sort of fill that gap with Bitcoin. And now they're both down around about 60% since December last year. So I'm not too excited by that idea that the merge has been causing loads of people to buy. But nonetheless, in technological terms, I think the merge could be a big step forward in the longer term, particularly.
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leverage to technology, and I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort, and China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, They're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.